Good morning or good afternoon. It is good afternoon here. Um, Welcome to Top Question Tuesday. Today we are talking about why fad and popular diets do not work with people with autoimmune disease. Things that we hear on the media, things that our celebrities are doing, things that the magazines say that we should all try, they don't work for us. And I'm sure you can agree with that too, because we've all tried the hottest weight loss diet, the Mediterranean diet, the vegetarian or vegan diet, all in hopes of feeling better, losing weight, clearing our skin, whatever it takes. So we're going to get into that and why it doesn't work and what nutrients we need and don't need for our autoimmune diseases. So I am Casey Kephart. I am the founder of the Feel Good Formula. And I work with women with all different types of autoimmune diseases to gain more energy, to trash your symptoms, and get back to the activities that you love to do each day. And I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the sun always shines. I have to laugh every time now. I feel like I cannot say that every single time.
Today you can, though, apparently. It just came out.
The sun just came out. So
Nice. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Jessica Melnick. I am the founder of the Anti-Arthritis Method, the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions Group, and I help people with all forms of autoimmune arthritis ditch their symptoms so that they can get back to living life on their terms, not the way that they are forced to, but the way that they choose to. Oh, did we lose you, Casey? We lost her. I imagine she'll be back here right away, but I can get started here. So like Casey was saying, people with autoimmune conditions need a very specific diet that is very different from what we are usually taught is a conventionally healthy diet. So I hear from my clients all the time that their doctor recommended the Mediterranean diet, or they recommended a reduced fat diet or a plant-based diet. Now, a lot of these things, those terms can mean a bunch of different things. They're not very specific. There she is.
sorry, my internet went out, I guess.
That's
Apologies.
okay. I'm glad you're back. I just was talking how some of the diets that our doctors recommend to us and some of the very, I guess, in unspecific ways and terminology that is used for certain diets. And that as people with autoimmune conditions, we need to eat a very specific diet. So I'm going to let you get back to taking it away.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we want to get on the tangent of our doctors and telling nutrition advice to us, we would think that they're very knowledgeable in the body, right? And nutrition and how it affects them. But most of the time they're not. Just because they've learned what symptom goes with the diagnosis and diagnosis goes with a prescription. And in the US and Canada, that's how we treat our people, is through medications and not necessarily food as medicine. But you always see in the checkout aisle, you see the magazines of people saying, Julie lost 17 pounds in 2 weeks doing this diet, or the Mediterranean diet is the best diet around right now. They're living till 100 years old, or vegetarian or vegan is the new thing to try because meat is bad. So we hear all of these things and we're like, well, first of all, what the heck do we eat to help me and to lose weight? And then we're thinking, well, if it worked for her, it can work for me too, right? And then when it doesn't work, we're thinking to ourselves, well, maybe I just didn't do it right. Maybe I didn't follow it correctly. Maybe she's doing something different. Maybe she had a personal chef. Maybe she had a doctor on hand, which are probably very true. So there's certain diets out there. I would say most diets out there don't work for us autoimmune people, and we're going to get really detailed into why. But let me just start off with an example, and I'm going to use oatmeal as the example because I love oatmeal so freaking much, but I can't eat it. So let's say your next door neighbor, Julie. She loves oatmeal just like Casey does here, and she eats this every morning for breakfast. And then Julie goes for a run afterwards. This is what fuels her run. She feels good, she feels energized. And then here's you, let's say your name is Jessica, and you eat oatmeal for breakfast every single morning as well. Well, after your morning breakfast of oatmeal, you want to go for a run just like Julie. Let's go running together with Julie. But instead, you're calling Julie, telling her you can't go running now because you're in bed hunched over with a stomach ache, or you have a lot of gas and bloating, or you're sitting on the toilet, or whatever it is. So, why can Julie eat oatmeal and you can't eat oatmeal? We have different biochemistries, we have different DNA, we have different antibodies, we have a different immune system. Everything is different, let alone Jessica has an autoimmune disease and Julie does not. So, why do we think that we can listen to the magazines, the media, the doctor that tells us just go on the Mediterranean diet, just do a vegan diet, do a low fat diet, do just a gluten free diet? Why? It doesn't work for everybody. So I think that's the layman's terms I can put it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too, I always tell my clients is that like when we look at all these different diets that are recommended, they're typically recommended for weight loss. And I think that's why diet has become such a negative word or has so much negative
Mm,
connotation attached to it. It's because it's like, oh, I'm on a diet. It means I'm trying to lose weight. Or I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to be deprived. I'm not going to be able to eat the things that I want to eat. And
mhm,
so it is a really negative connotation. But when it comes to healing autoimmune disease, we are not focused on weight loss. If you
mhm,
have weight that needs to be shed, it will naturally, you will naturally shed that excess weight once your body is healthier. So
mhm,
when you have an autoimmune condition and it's active with active symptoms and you're in pain and you're tired, your body is trying to repair itself. It is trying to take care of you, and it's not going to be focused on releasing excess weight. It's not a priority. It's going to be focused on reducing that inflammation. It's going to be trying to work to repair itself and using its energy and resources for that. So once we can heal what we need to heal and repair what we need to repair, then that weight can come off.
mhm,
So that's why when you try things, when you have an autoimmune condition, you're like, oh, well, I heard keto is really good. I'm going to try keto, and then maybe you feel a little bit better, but you're not quite sure, if you
mhm,
really feel that great. Maybe you lost a little bit of weight, but you're like, I'm still feeling achy. I'm still, have some bloating. I'm still have some brain fog. There's a reason why. And
mhm.
so, and that's because you need to eat very specifically for autoimmune conditions.
Yeah. And it's funny that we have a bad connotation on the word diet because the original word diet really means what you eat to fuel yourself. Like your diet, what you eat every day is your diet. But now we associate diet with changing our diets to something more healthy or something more restrictive or something more um, super foodie, whatever words you want to use. But
Mhm.
back in the day, your diet was just what you ate. That's
Yeah.
it.
And
And
that
it's
is and that is what we mean by it. A
yeah,
diet is just what you were eating.
yeah. And it's unfortunate now that we can't really say diet without it sounding bad.
Mhm.
Um, or I know I've said it in the context that it should be said in, and then people are like, "Oh, why are you on a diet? You're thin and healthy." And I'm like, "Oh, God."
Yeah, not what I mean.
Exactly, but thanks for the compliments anyways. If
Yeah.
you only knew how healthy I was inside of me.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty on why all these fad and popular diets don't work for us and why we need something really specific for people with autoimmune disease. So the Mediterranean diets, the vegetarian or vegan diets, the keto diets, whatever diet you want to put in your head right now that you've tried or heard of, let's talk about that because they're all the same. So there's a lot of components in these diets that are inflammatory to us. They're regular day-to-day foods that we think are healthy, that are really causing us inflammation. And there are studies upon studies upon studies around these foods in relation to people with autoimmune disease. So that's why we need an autoimmune protocol to take out all of those so-called healthy foods and and really specialize in what we're eating to be anti-inflammatory for us instead of inflammatory. So one of those foods being grains. So the Mediterranean diet has a lot of grains in there, and that's back when that used to be a really good thing. Even now, it might be a really good thing for another individual, say Julie, who eats oatmeal. But for you, Jessica, who has an autoimmune disease, it is not good. It's inflammatory. So why is it inflammatory? It has lectins in it, which is a resistant starch on the plant that protects the plant from getting eaten, from I'm losing my words here. It just
Basically, it protects the plant from being like from predators. So
yeah,
the insects that will eat it actually get really sick and usually die from eating the plant because of the lectins. So it deters pests. So
yeah,
that's the plant's way of protecting itself, but it also ends up hurting us.
right,
So that
exactly.
those lectins hurt our gut system too. So and like you said, some of these like whole grains can be really great for some people, but when you're dealing with an active autoimmune condition, we want to avoid these lectins.
Exactly. Good explanation. Thank you. And then they contain phytates as well. So grains are quinoa, pastas, rice, whole grains. You know, when it says whole grain bread, whole grain this, whole grain that, oatmeal, barley, which is also gluten, processed grains, meaning cereals, breads, baked goods, and gluten. So all of these things that some are good and some sound bad, they're causing inflammation in us, and our body is attacking it essentially, causing
Yes.
more inflammation, a ramped up immune system, et cetera, et cetera. So in an autoimmune protocol or diet or whatever you want to call it, we make sure to exclude the grains for a little bit. You may be able to reintroduce some grains later on, but we want to stay away from that.
Mhm. And I just wanted to mention too, gluten itself is a lectin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the most irritating lectins, and studies have even shown that people that don't have autoimmune conditions get leaky gut from eating gluten. So obviously, just the effects are more pronounced when you do have autoimmune symptoms.
Yep.
So, and also the other thing is that even gluten-free grains can be irritating. So it's not just gluten that we want to avoid when we have autoimmune symptoms. We want to avoid the gluten-free grains as well because they still have lectins, they still have phytates, and phytates also interfere with our absorption of nutrients as well.
Yep.
So, can cause some malnourishment as well. So we want to avoid that too. And Casey,
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you explain cross reactivity because that's something I know, and that's the reason why you can't eat oatmeal. One of the reasons
Yep.
that you can't eat oatmeal because you have celiac disease, so you avoid
Mm-hmm.
gluten. But oatmeal has a similar effect on you as a gluten containing grain. So
Yep.
I'll let you explain that because that I think is really interesting and helpful for a lot of people to understand as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were part of our gluten-free challenge or you were watching the gluten-free videos before our challenge back in January now, we explained cross-reactivity. And it's like the analogy of, let's say you're a third shift worker. So you work 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. You also work a day job first shift. You're tired, right? You are so tired. And this is our body when we are super inflamed. It is just going and going and going and going and trying to fight everything off. So let's think of our body as a night shift worker, overworked, tired. So now it's going to start making mistakes, just like, let's say, the third shift janitor worker is. He forgets to pick up a cup in the gym. He forgets to dust the fans. But our body is now tagging foods as foreigners in our body that are not foreigners, and they're foods that look like gluten molecules. So let's say you already have a sensitivity to gluten and you eat oatmeal. Your body thinks it looks like oatmeal. Your body thinks it looks like gluten. So it's going to tag that oatmeal molecule with an antibody, and antibodies are there to remember for next time what to do with it. So it tags it with an antibody as in foreign invader. So now our immune system is going to defend this foreign invader inside of us. So every time we eat oatmeal now, our body's attacking it. And it's the same thing with dairy foods, soy foods. There's a couple other hot ones too that are really indicative of cross reactivity. So
Corn.
corn, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just our body being overworked and inflamed, and we're just unintentionally tagging these foods that aren't bad for us, but our body is saying it's bad for us. And this can go away. This can reduce once that inflammation goes down, once we heal that leaky gut. And then we can start slowly adding back in foods to see what our body likes, what it doesn't like, if those antibodies are still there, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of like and I don't want to get into it, but it's kind of like vaccines in a way. You inject something, it puts antibodies in us, and it remembers for next time when we get that dose of virus in us again. So that would be why oatmeal doesn't work for some people, or certain grains or milk or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another food group that we want to avoid, especially when we have active autoimmune conditions, especially for people like myself and my clients that have arthritis, is we want to avoid nightshades. So, nightshade fruits and vegetables, things like tomatoes, eggplant, peppers of all kinds. So, bell peppers, hot peppers, spices derived from peppers. So, chili powders, paprika. We want to avoid those things. Jalapenos, we want to avoid white potatoes. Yams and sweet potatoes are not the same. They are not nightshades, so you can still have those safely. And goji berries, of all things. I know that they've been touted as a superfood for years. And for some people, yes, but they are a nightshade. So if that's something you regularly eat, is these nightshades, you want to avoid them initially, and we do that with our protocols with our clients. And, they contain tons of lectins in the seeds and in the skins, and which is really hard to avoid for some of those things that we eat. So, when my clients are looking at reintroducing foods, once they're feeling much better, I often recommend different cooking mechanisms for things if they're wanting to reintroduce, let's say, tomatoes. So when it comes to tomatoes and bell peppers, you have the best chance of tolerating them if you are skinning them and seeding them first. So a lot of old school cooking methods, that was just natural. So in Italy, for example, roasting bell peppers and skinning and seeding them was just commonplace. That's just how you prepared them. Same thing with tomatoes. Before you made pasta sauce, you would blanch your tomatoes, skin them, seed them, and then use the fruit of the tomato to make the sauce. So that was how they got rid of lectins. And so they knew this a long time ago. Whether or not they actually knew it was lectins, I don't know, but they knew how to prepare the food to make it more easy for our body to manage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, with anybody with like an arthritis form of autoimmune disease, or just autoimmune disease, people who have joint aches without it being arthritis, I would definitely say avoid nightshades altogether. I know my grandma can't do tomatoes, but she can do some other nightshades. So it's a matter of listening to your body, and we go heavily over that in our programs as well, and how to do that. Okay, so the next thing is, so when we talk about vegan and vegetarianism and, or more of a plant-based diet, people are always saying red meat is bad. Meat is bad. Well, in the protocol we give you for autoimmune disease people that is heavily studied and science-based, we want you to eat meat. We always, we're not trying to offend anybody here, but we're always like, oh gosh, you're not eating meat. Please eat meat. When people tell us you're not eating meat, and we all think it's a good thing we're not eating meat, it's so the other direction. It's not a good thing you're not eating meat. You're losing a lot of nutrients when you don't eat meat. There's omega 3s in grass finished, grass fed, like pasture raised, good quality meat. So when we talk about meat, let me preface this. We're talking about not your, excuse my friends, your shitty quality meat that you would find at a fast food restaurant, at a I don't know what kind of stores you have there, but at a Jewel or a Publix.
Commercially raised, right?
Yep.
Commercially raised meat.
Yep. So we're talking about grass fed, organic, pasture raised, things like that. So this good quality food is high in omega 3s, which are the fish oils that you're getting from your salmon, or mostly fish oil. And then they're high in vitamin D. So is like spinach and dark leafy greens, but it's not absorbed as highly as in the meat. And then it's high in CLA, which is conjugated linoleic acid. That's a tongueful. And this is actually good for weight loss, guys. And this is in red meat. So yes, meat can be good for weight loss. It can be good for nutrients, and it has absorbable and quality
Oh, we lost you.
protein in it that our body likes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to the protein that is in animal protein is the full chain amino acid spectrum. So it is easier to absorb than is a plant-based protein, which are incomplete sources of the full amino acid chain. So just to keep that in mind too. So you're getting your full amino acid profile, which is great for muscle. And we need muscle in order to maintain weight and maintain metabolism as well. And I also always tell my clients, when it comes to, people are always like, oh, well, if I eat red meat, it's bad for it'll give me high cholesterol, or, we're worried about our heart health. But when you're looking at grass-fed, grass-finished meat or wild game that is red meat, the omega 3s in that meat are very, very heart healthy. And it's actually refined carbohydrates that we need to worry about when it comes to high cholesterol. We're not taught that. We've been taught that saturated fat is the devil, and that's what's causing heart disease. It is not. It is refined carbohydrates and sugars that are creating heart disease. So just please consider that, take that in, take that tidbit and just look at meat a little bit differently.
Yeah, I want to say something about cholesterol too, and we can probably do a whole live on this as well with refined carbohydrates and cholesterol and heart. But it's also not necessarily a bad thing if you have high cholesterol. It's what kind of cholesterol is going on in your body. So the small oxidized LDL form of cholesterol is the bad cholesterol. If you have healthy cholesterol moving through your body and it's still high, it's not as dangerous for your heart. So we need more lab work to really tell us what cholesterol is going on, more than just the HDL and LDL that you get from the doctor. What's the cell size that is happening here? And it's really interesting. So if you don't believe us or you want to know more, I would say Google it, but it's going to come up with all of the conventional things we hear in the media. I wish I could find the book or a blog post for you. Maybe I'll do that today. But fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And lastly, we wanted to just cover legumes quickly. So legumes we want to avoid for basically the same reasons we're avoiding grains. It's because of the high lectin content and phytate content. Now, so when we say legumes, we're talking about any of the beans out there that you might eat, like kidney beans, black beans, chickpeas, all those kinds of beans. Edamame beans are in there as well. They're a soybean. So high lectin content. But again, if these are some of the things that you want to try to reintroduce once you're feeling much, much better, There's also traditional cooking methods that make these foods that reduce the lectin content and make them much more palatable for our systems. So
Mm-hmm.
things like soaking them and sprouting them, or just even soaking overnight, rinsing, and then pressure cooking. That helps get rid of a lot of the lectins that way. So there's ways that you can prepare these foods to make them much easier for your body to tolerate.
Yep, exactly. So those are just a couple foods that are in most of the popular fad diets out there that really cause us inflammation. There's a couple other ones out there too, and we go straight into that in our programs as well. I know we didn't mention dairy here, but there's a lot of diets that don't want dairy too. So either way, so what actually works for people with autoimmune disease and why? So first thing would be eliminating the above inflammatory foods that we just went through. There's again a lot of research and studies done on why these cause inflammation in autoimmune disease people. So we start with an elimination diet, and it's eliminating all of those inflammatory foods that have been shown inflammatory in us. And then we go to reintroducing the foods when the symptoms are close to being out the window or you are totally feeling great. And then we work on reintroducing certain foods. We're not reintroducing cookies, cakes, gluten, bread, things like that. We're reintroducing maybe some rice, maybe some coffee, maybe white potatoes, and the foods we should be eating in a healthy manner. And this is going to provide more vitamins, minerals, nutrition for us so we can continue healing. But the goal is to find your ideal diet for your body. So we do that again with the elimination diet and adding foods back in, and that will tell you what your body likes to eat and what it doesn't like to eat and what we still need to work on. Just because your body is finding that you don't like, let's say, a white potato, that doesn't mean you can't eat a white potato in another 6 months or 12 months. We just need to work on our guts a little bit more. So we're finding your ideal diet through this autoimmune protocol. And that's what's so different than any of the other fad diets out there. It's not individualized. It's not for autoimmune disease people. Jessica, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just basically to reiterate what you said. So the long-term goal is not to have a super restrictive diet. It's to find out the widest range of foods that your body enjoys and that supports your health and keeps your symptoms away. So we eliminate foods at the beginning for a very specific purpose, and but it's not forever, and
Mhm.
it is what is needed in order to repair the leaky gut and also to get your immune system to calm down and stop being so confused and attacking your body's own tissues.
Yep.
So the focus is definitely not weight loss here. The
No.
focus is on healing the damage that's been done and that is creating your autoimmune symptoms.
Mhm.
So it's really working at things and addressing it from where it begins, as opposed to just trying to put a band-aid on the symptoms, because that's not going to fix the problem.
Mhm.
That's not going to prevent future flare-ups or prevent, future joint damage. So we have to actually address it from where it begins. And both you and I do that in our programs. And
Mhm.
because we know that it is an adjustment for people and we want you to be successful, and we know that diets in the conventional sense typically don't work and they don't last. They might
Mhm.
work for a little bit and then we just go back to what we used to do because it's not sustainable. We teach you how to make this sustainable. We teach you how to make this work in your life. And this is a process over a period of 3 months. So we're holding your hand. We're not just being like, here's the instructions, go. We're there to support you and to answer all of your questions and to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and why as well. And in addition to the food protocols that we use, we're also helping you with mindset as well, so that you can
Mhm.
make this sustainable, and you can look at this in a way that is positive and how it is changing and transforming your health and transforming your life essentially.
Yeah.
Because Think about all the things that you miss out on when you're having your arthritis or other autoimmune symptoms.
Mhm.
You're missing out on so much of your life. And so when we can alleviate those symptoms, you have your life back.
Yeah.
So, and our goal, like I said, it's to make these changes long-term and sustainable. And we help you step by step so you don't have to figure this out on your own.
Yeah. So last thing I would like to say is just imagine right now your life with knowing what you should be eating every single day for optimal health and not feeling any backlash from what you ate and any symptoms. Like, what would that mean for you to know exactly what you should be eating every single day to make your body feel good?
Yeah.
That's huge. I definitely wanted that before. So this is very individualized. It is very catered to your body. So it's
Yes.
not just another diet we're throwing at you. It is personalized and step by step and education and everything.
Yes. And I know, Casey, you are making some updates to your program. It'll be ready in a few weeks or so. So I'm really excited for you to have that up and running so that you can share your link with everyone in our community who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And today I will post the link to book a call with me if you are interested in figuring out how to do this. If you want help doing this and you want to do it right and you want to know more about the anti-arthritis method program, then I will have the link in the comments to book the call with me so that we can chat about this and I can get you on track so you can start feeling amazing.
Yes. All right. This was fun. This was a really good topic. I know I enjoyed it. We're back on Thursday with a cool special guest. We have a psychotherapist joining us, and we're going to talk all about self care. Well, she's going to talk about self care and how to integrate that in your life and so much more. So, join us on Thursday. It'll be super fun. And we'll see you then. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.
Yep. Take care, guys.